Seamus, is he fit? And Amadou and Anna, is he fit as well?
Seamus and Amadou have been on the grass. We'll make a decision on them. Andros is still a bit away, but has been on the grass with the sports science team and just easing back into a kind of return to training programme.
You also get back Abdoulaye Doucouré after his suspension, as well as all the attributes that he brings to your midfield. Are you also getting someone back who, in some ways, feels he has to make amends for what happened against Spurs? Because obviously you've been without him for most of the second half against them and the subsequent games.
I certainly don't ask players to make amends for moments in a game. I think the moment was clear. It was decided he got sent off. But you want the passion, the pride, the belief in that player, and he's been delivering that. So I certainly don't ask players for any reasons, and things can happen in a football match. But you want them to look after yourselves while they're not playing and be ready to come back in. And he certainly looked after himself, and he'll be ready to come back in.
What difference does a player like that make to your midfield?
There's no guarantees, but when we came here and he came into the side, and he did make a difference. Whether he's playing in sort of more like a 3 in there or more like the sort of pushed on of the 3 with the sort of number 10 role, he's made a difference with his energy, with his application, scored, set up moments. Just a driving force behind a team unit. But we want the whole team to be like that. And he was the catalyst in certain games, and other players followed that. Now we want the other players to lead it and him play his part in it.
Obviously, his availability is a positive. A point and a clean sheet at Palace is another positive. Dominic getting 90 minutes is a positive as well. At the same time, you've also slipped back into the bottom 3. So how do you balance the two negatives and the positives?
Just realities. I always work on realities. Good to see Dom back out there, that's for sure. Got more minutes in than what we thought. But the tempo of the game was slightly lower than some, so that we could allow that to happen. He felt good. Obviously, we monitored it during the game, and he's recovered from that well, from the physical idea of it and the recovery period. He looked sharp again today in training. The idea of a clean sheet away is always welcome, of course. Thought we could have took the game on a little bit more actually on the day. But work in progress, particularly away. A lot of noise about the away form for a couple of seasons here. And then the idea of the position in the league, as I've said a million times, happy to bore you with it again. The league table's the one at the end of the season that counts. You have to monitor what's going on, but we can only monitor what we're doing. Results outside of us, as I've said a million times too, if they come our way, brilliant. If they help you out, brilliant. But the way that we're trying to plan it is to help ourselves out and take care of business ourselves.
And taking the game on, it comes into the thinking again this week, because Eddie spoke and he said the last couple of away games, generally they've not started the way they did at home to Spurs. I'd imagine that your aim is to ensure they don't get that opportunity to start in that way at Goodison Park as well.
Well, they've turned into a good, very strong unit. You've seen that this season, from signing a lot of players in January, again in the summer, but also the good coaching, the good methods Eddie uses. Always respected Eddie and what he's done and what he's continuing to do. So we know they're a good outfit, and that's been seen not only by what your perception is, but the league table and some of their performances. And if he's suggesting they haven't started as well, then that's something for them to worry about. We know we've got to start well in every game, and a lot so far since I've been here we have done. And we've got to continue that, but also add to it, and what I talk about, the consistency throughout a game. Because we've had strong periods in games when we haven't got our nose in front, we haven't taken chance, etc., etc. But you've got to keep that consistent performance throughout the 90-odd minutes, 95 minutes or whatever, and I think that's still a work in progress. But we are looking to start well ourselves, of course, and ably supported by our fans.
Eddie's also spoken about Anthony Gordon shutting out the noise at Goodison Park. I mean, he left pretty much the day before you were announced as Everton manager. But you've been able to glean exactly what went on. What reaction do you expect to Anthony Gordon? And do you also have to try and ensure that your players don't get caught up in any kind of noise around that as well?
I don't see why they get caught up in any noise about it. I certainly am not. It was before my time here, so I don't really know too much about what's happened in the past, because we're trying to build a future. So, that player left. Other players get a chance because of that player leaving, etc., etc. But I don't see why our players would be too worried about that other than just focusing on the game.
In terms of the pre-match routine, I believe there's a change as well. You are going to be arriving by the team bus. What's the thinking behind that change? Because I'd imagine it's something to do with the welcome that the fans are planning for the players.
Yeah, it was well documented last season about it. The fans group, a couple of fan groups mentioned about it this season. I've got a massive respect for them because of purely from what I've seen, what I've heard from the fans home and away since I've been here. So, they wanted to help play their part if that can make a difference. beyond that, we want the team to play their part. Obviously, we're looking for the team to make a difference. But if the fans can continue the support they have done, which has been fantastic, then we respect that totally.
Have you seen pictures of that welcome at Goodison Park this season? What do you make of it?
Well, I wasn't here, but I think the atmosphere, or it helps to create an atmosphere. But like I say, the focus remains on the whistle blowing, because that alone can't win you a game. You've got to make sure that you're in the right frame of mind anyway, regardless. But if the fans can help play their part in that, then that's part of it.
Every little bit, I suppose. I just wonder as well if it's something that plays a part in a recognition as to how important this game is. I know every game is important, but obviously I'm talking from a perspective that time is in essence.
I don't think so. I think all of our fans, all Evertonians, not just the ones that come in the stadium, I think everyone knows how important this run of games are. Well, they're all important since we got it, but we're beginning to get a fitter look to the squad with injuries and suspensions. They're all important games, but of course this last clutch of games are bound to be important because of what it means.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
It's been able to go to Stuart, Premier League Productions.
Obviously only 3 home games left. Talking about the fans, what would your message be to the fans going into these games?
The same as it has been since we got here. We can only ask for them to support us. That's all we can do, and play our part in giving something back, which we've been trying to do. A couple of drop-offs, but mainly the team are putting a lot into performances, put a lot on the pitch to go and turn things around. So I've been happy with that, but we have had a couple of drop-offs which need correcting. But it's that dual responsibility. Like I said, I'd like to think fans support the team anyway, but we've got to give them something to support. Sometimes they play their part in getting us going. Sometimes we play a part in getting them going. With the way that we're performing. So, but they've been terrific. So I've got absolutely no question mark over the fan support at all.
It can be obviously pretty intense under the lights at Goodison as well. Is the point to try and make it as uncomfortable as possible for the opposition?
The team have to make it uncomfortable. The fans play their part with the noise in the stadium. I mean, the atmosphere's been terrific since I've been here. So, and like I said, I've been on the other side of that, so I know what it means. But the team have to bring that as well. That's the important focus. The team have to provide a performance that can win games.
Just a word on Newcastle as well. 6 out of 7, I think they've won going into this. Big chance of Champions League qualification. What have you made of their improvement overall?
I think they've found that the good mixture of recruiting well, building an energy and a belief in the team unit, good coaching and management. It looks like they found a nice mixture there. Recruitment's tough. No matter how much you spend, lots or little, it's still tough. They've invested a lot of money, but they've been quite obviously been coached well. They've got a good feel about it, and they've kind of brought a good feel to what they're trying to do. And then they've definitely changed the rhetoric. They've changed the story, because we all know the noise at Newcastle was not positive for a long, long time. And that's partly what we're trying to do here. We've got to keep changing the perception of what's going on and keep changing the thought of it. The only way of doing that, inevitably, is by performances and taking games on and winning games.
Thanks, Stuart. We'll go to Mike at Radio Merseyside.
Sean, promising return from Dominic CalvertLewin at Crystal Palace. To get the best out of him, the service from wide areas need to improve.
Does it? Thanks.
Do you think it needs to improve?
Yeah. Well,
it does, doesn't it?
Well, statistically, we have improved that. The quality of chance is what I'm always focusing on. I've said it a million times. You read them stats and it says they had this many chances, us or them. It's key chances. It's key quality moments. That's what we're trying to provide. So, although I know the stats and the facts, it's more about the quality. How many quality crosses are you getting? How many quality passes? How many quality chances are you creating? So that's what we're looking to do, is always add in to the quality levels, not just the amount.
And getting players in and around him as well.
Yeah, of course. Again, something we looked to affect when we came in. There's been really strong moments of that. There's been other games when we haven't done it as well, depending on the scoreline, depending on how we've pressed in the game, depending on how we've attacked in the game. A lot more goes into it than literally just finding them moments. But Dominic's history suggests he'll play his part in that. And he looked, for someone who'd been out a while, I thought he looked pretty good physically down at Palace. A couple of down days and some recovery days. And I think you'll see another step on from Dom again.
With 6 games to go, it sort of sees the daytime, isn't it? Have you had to sort of re-emphasise that to the players? Because I know, particularly in the games at Goodison, the majority of the time you've had that, but there have been, and you've mentioned it, there have been drop-offs second half against Fulham when Fulham scored. That just can't happen anymore, can it?
Well, I don't think it should happen anyway, but it does. No, I think that's probably the only glaring one since I've been here. So I don't overthink one half, but it was a costly half, of course. But no, I don't want to overthink one half of football, because there's been a lot of good signs, a lot of positive signs. Dealing with injuries, dealing with the suspension to Duke, who suddenly materialised as a very strong player for us. And now we've got them players back in amongst it. So I'm looking for more, of course. You're always looking for more as a manager.
And the onus is on the players to make things happen and not wait for them to happen, not wait for another teammate to make something happen.
You're right, yeah. I mean, I speak to them about it all the time, because football doesn't work like that. Now and again, as I say, you get a lucky one where maybe it's not your day or you're quiet and you still find a result. But generally speaking, you make it happen, and that is one of the keys to being a good football side.
How have they responded when you've said that to them? Because obviously, clearly they know that, but poor performances and a lack of confidence can inhibit things like that.
It can, but it's only part of the challenge. It's rare that, look at the noise that's just changing about Arsenal. Different kind of challenge. They're just their questions. Well, you have to find a way through it. That's part of being a professional footballer. That's part of being a manager. That's part of being a coach, to find a way through it. And usually the best way of finding a way through it is through performances, through work on the training ground and building belief. Belief just doesn't suddenly materialise. You build it. And I think we're in a process of building it. We've got more work to do and we've got to do it quickly. We know that. And
do the players realise that they can draw on that template from Arsenal and Brentford, and those are the games where it has been, a real up and at them performance?
Yeah, of course. We, despite the noise around here about the negative side of it, we work wholeheartedly with the players about the positives, because there's been lots of them since we got here. That was a great marker straight away, of course, against a top side in Arsenal. And re-enhances that, the ideas and the principles and how we work and the group's ownership of that. And there's been a lot of work on that. And like I say, we stepped away a couple of times. You can argue the fact of injuries, suspensions, but I want the whole group mentality to be like that. If there is an injury, it should be a chance for someone else to come in. It should be a chance for them to lay down a marker. So we want that mentality. Somewhat getting better, somewhat getting stronger.